friend Mark had invited me and two others, Sarah and Jake, to his family's old cabin deep in the mountains. We were warned about an incoming storm, but we figured we'd be fine. Just a couple of days in the snow, drinking, playing cards, and escaping the stress of life. The drive up was smooth, clear roads, crisp air. But as night fell, the storm hit harder than expected. By the time we reached the cabin, snow was coming down in thick sheets, and the wind howled like a living thing. Inside, the place was old but cozy. Fireplace, wooden walls, and dim lanterns that gave it an eerie glow. But from the moment we stepped in, something felt off. The first thing we noticed, the front door was unlocked. Mark swore he locked it before we left last summer. We chalked it up to forgetfulness and settled in. But as I set my bag down in the main bedroom, I felt something strange, like the air was heavier. Then I noticed the closet door. It was slightly open. Not much, just a crack. Just enough to make me uneasy. I pushed it shut and turned the lock, telling myself it was nothing. But that night, we learned the storm was worse than expected. The roads were completely buried, and we had no cell signal. We were trapped. Then, at around 2:12 a.m., we all heard it. Thump, thump, thump. Something heavy moving across the roof. The wind was vicious, but this wasn't the storm. It was slow, deliberate footsteps. Jake, the most skeptical of us, grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside onto the porch. The snow was already knee-deep. His light cut through the swirling whiteout, but then he stopped. "There's tracks up here," he muttered. We all rushed to see, and sure enough, huge footprints were imprinted in the snow. But what made my stomach turn was that they didn't lead to the cabin. They led away from it. Something had been standing on the roof, watching us. Then Sarah gasped. She pointed at the tree line where the forest swallowed the light. There was something standing there, a tall, thin shape, barely visible through the storm. We bolted inside, locking the doors and windows. The wind screamed against the walls, and we huddled in the living room, barely speaking. And then, the power went out. The fireplace was our only light, throwing long, shifting shadows. The cabin felt smaller, the darkness pressing in. Then came the scratching, long, slow scratches against the wooden walls. Mark whispered, "It's circling the cabin." We didn't move, didn't breathe. Then, bang, bang, bang. Something pounded on the door. We grabbed the fireplace poker, a hunting knife, anything we could use. Jake shouted, "Who's there?" But there was no answer. Then the knocking stopped. We waited. Minutes passed. The storm howled, but nothing else happened. After what felt like forever, Jake decided to check. He cracked the door just an inch, flashlight trembling in his hand. The porch was empty. The footsteps were gone, but the snow was untouched. No prints, no sign that anyone had ever been there. And then we heard the whisper. Not outside, inside, right behind us. I turned so fast I nearly fell over. The closet door in the hallway, the one I had locked, was wide open. The storm trapped us in the cabin, but we weren't alone. We never were. To this day, I still don't understand what happened that night, but sometimes when the wind howls outside my window, I swear I hear it again. Thump, 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 like something walking on my roof, still watching, still waiting. And I know deep down, it will find me again. It was supposed to be a quick drive home. The forecast warned of a winter storm rolling in, but I had made this trip 100 times before. I figured if I left early, I'd beat the worst of it. I was wrong. The snow hit faster than expected. Within minutes, visibility dropped to almost nothing. The road disappeared under a thick sheet of white, and my tires struggled for grip. Then my car died. The engine sputtered, the dashboard flickered, and suddenly I was coasting on dead power in the middle of nowhere. No gas stations, no houses, just miles of empty roads swallowed by the storm. I reached for my phone. No signal. Perfect. I tried restarting the car. Nothing. The wind howled outside, shaking the vehicle, and the temperature inside dropped fast. I needed to find shelter. That's when I saw it. Just ahead, barely visible through the swirling snow, was another car parked on the side of the road. Its headlights were off, but its driver's side door was slightly open. Snow piling inside. Maybe they had broken down too. Maybe they had a working phone. I pulled my coat tight, grabbed a flashlight, and stepped out into the freezing night. The wind stole my breath immediately. My boots crunched through knee-deep snow as I trudged toward the abandoned car. When I reached it, I hesitated. The door was wide open now, like the wind had pushed it further. I pointed my flashlight inside. The driver's seat was empty, but there were footprints in the snow leading away from the car, except they only went in one direction. Whoever had been inside had gotten out, but there were no prints returning. I called out, but my voice was swallowed by the storm. I looked closer and noticed something that made my stomach drop. The keys were still in the ignition. The engine was on. The car was running. I stepped back. Something was wrong. Then from the darkness I heard it, a faint whisper, not words, just a breathy, unnatural sound carried by the wind. I swung my flashlight wildly, scanning the whiteout. Nothing. Then I turned back to the abandoned car and saw someone sitting in the back seat. I stumbled backward, my flashlight shaking. The figure was motionless, facing forward. Their face was obscured by the frost-covered window, but I could see their breath fogging up the glass. I shouted, "Hey! Are you okay?" No response. I swallowed hard and took a step closer, shining the light directly into the car. The breath marks on the glass disappeared, like they had never been there. In the back seat, it was empty. I ran. I sprinted back to my car, heart hammering. I didn't care if the engine was dead. I just wanted to be anywhere but there. As I yanked open my door and jumped inside, my frozen hands fumbled with the ignition. I tried the key one last time. The car started. I didn't question it. I threw it into gear and peeled out of there, snow spraying behind me. As I sped past the abandoned car, I made the mistake of looking in my rearview mirror. For a split second through the snow and darkness, I saw someone standing in the middle of the road, watching me leave. And as my taillights faded, they took a slow step forward. I never saw that car again. Never found any reports about someone missing in that area. But sometimes when I drive alone on snowy nights, I swear I see footprints in the road, leading from nowhere.